Hello, everybody, and welcome to the next session in our series, Secure Your Systems with Our Ecosystem. My name is Christian Daser. I'm leading C-Stack in DACH, Germany, Austria, Switzerland, and I hope you have enjoyed the previous sessions that we already had in the couple of weeks before. So we already discussed in the first session how to address top 5 security risks. In the second session, we discussed how to deal with auditing in financial services. And in the last session, we just explored around database security. So I'm really looking forward to today's round with our partners Empalis and PEP Security. And today we will discuss around identity and key management. So we have 2 speakers and 1 additional moderator. Let me quickly introduce the speakers. We have Alina Moth. Alina is CEO of Empalis. She has more than 20 years of professional career working with clients at different stages and knowing chances, possibilities, challenges in projects. So she looked into product and project management for software architectures, building solution designs and development. She joined the management team of Empalis in 2018, and her focus has always been on Empalis business strategy, strategic direction, and business development. In her leadership role as CEO, she's highly involved in daily business. So she has lots of expertise around identity and key management, and especially client insight. Then looking at Volker Berg from PEP Security. He is recognized as really an exceptional software architect and activist in open source space. Just heard that he wrote his first software program at the age of 13. I did not do that, Volker, so good on that. So he started also his first business at the age of 16 when he developed professional and commercial software. So Volker is a serial entrepreneur, chief software architect and CEO since more than 30 years. Over this time, Volker worked as an independent software architect, building systems, problem solving for clients, and he did that across multiple industries. So that's really amazing. So speakers today, looking forward to that. In addition, I have with me Felix Weisbeck from IBM. He's our IBM software expert in also Germany, Austria, Switzerland, and he's our subject matter expert for everything around ISVs on our platform. So I would also call him the mastermind behind this series. Around security with our ecosystem. So really looking forward to today's session, and with that, I hand over first of all to Felix.
Thank you, Christian, very much for this nice introduction, and also a warm welcome from me to everybody who is joining us online. I won't take much of your time before we can dive right into the different session we'll have today. But I just wanted to remind you, if you have any questions or any comments, feel free to put them in the chat. We'll have somebody supervise that, and I'll also keep an eye out for any comments. And I've already seen that there was a comment about if there will be a paper distributed. So first of all, you don't need any prior knowledge for this, but we'll make sure that we'll provide the slides afterwards to you. So feel free to reach out, and I look forward to the session. So with this, I'll hand over to you, Alina and Volker.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. And hi, everybody, from my part too, and many thanks to IBM for organizing this series and topic. We just chatted in the background. Do we talk about identity really deep? And then we realized probably the time is too short, but we will definitely talk about key management a lot. As always, I'm very excited in such live interviews. I don't know why, but I hope to get more deeper and deeper. And as Volker said about 2 days ago, you will kill them. I hope you won't. I won't kill you, or we won't kill you. but we prepared some slides, and we would like to go with you in this topic in this 40-50 minutes, as much as we can, as deep as we can, technically, but as high level as we can, also on a management level, because probably there are different attendees in the participants round. So Volker, maybe you would like also to say a few words at the beginning.
As usual, Alina, when you're speaking, I'm just listening, of course.
No, shut up.
Yes, sure.
No, shut up, please.
Sure. No, it's a lot about key management. What we prepared here, we tried to cover a whole overview about that. And unfortunately, there's not much time for identity management, which I got aware of. So we had to decide, and we opted for key management because it's a huge topic most people struggle with. And my hope is that people watching this could take away really helpful information how to deal with that by gaining a better understanding of the problem space and also of possible options how to solve the problems. And that is why I'm so happy to be the sidekick of Alina here, because she will run this show like she always does. And I'm looking forward to it nearly as interested as maybe someone in the audience here. So I'm part of the audience, let's say. So Alina, do we just run this and start with it, or will we actually fight about our different
Now
opinions?
I am even more excited, huh? So let's just start
sure.
directly into it, I would say. Maybe with a short agenda, which will go a bit, as I said, deeper. This is what we plan to talk about very generally at some points, going a bit technically. If you have any questions, don't really hesitate to ask them. We'll try to answer them all. We even ask permission to maybe talk a bit more than the 40 minutes. So if you have time and stay with us, we will stay here too, which is good. And yeah, so yeah, but probably the very first question, which we also talked in the very first general session with all the ISV, was why actually do we need key management? Because yeah, well, why actually? Because whenever you use encryption or you do a data, or you want to protect your data, you want to encrypt your data, but also when you want to identify yourself or authenticate yourself somewhere, there is encryption. What happens, technically speaking, in the background? There is a process, there is an encryption engine, there is maybe a hardware cryptographic device working there, and of course you need keys, and these keys are of very different types. I don't know if we can group them like I group them here, but yeah, there are short-term keys like, for example, for SSL servers that maybe are only issued for 1 year. Long-term keys also, like a certificate, like a CA, certificate authority, which could also last for 15 up to 20 years, right? Or even archive keys that you want to archive some data that could even last longer than that. So this is just in terms of timely differentiation. And there is then the technically speaking differentiation, like symmetrical keys, asymmetrical keys, certificates, whatever is there on the market today. And then you protect, of course, with these keys or with this encryption, you protect, of course, the data, critical data. And you always have to ask yourself, what is a critical data? Because it's not needed. And I'm not a fan of encrypting everything. I'm only a fan of encrypting really what is absolutely
13
needed.
recipients, but maybe a couple.
Yeah. And this critical data could be, if you talk about finance world, then it could be personal account numbers. It could be PINs, like your PINs for the credit card or debit card. But it could be also contact data. Thanks to GDPR, even our mail addresses, our telephone numbers, actually even our names are contact data that need to be protected, which is funny. Because I'm saying whatever is in the telephone book, it's actually public, so why should I protect that? But okay, I understand GDPR. And yes, and then there is, of course, a lot of compliance issues, a lot of regulation out there on the market that I heard of, then I had to do also, or had to deal with, which stipulates something for your company. Yeah. And like, for example, the ISO 27001, which is more like a risk management oriented standard. But you have in finance, you have this typical payment card industry data security standard, PCI DSS, which really goes very, very deep into how you protect your data, how do you do your key management and stuff like that. And there is furthermore, like I said, GDPR for Europe, but you have in the US, and Volker, you are more on the US market, I think, at the moment with the PEP security solution.
So you have the fun fact, not anymore. Now we have German customers as well. So yes, both for sure. Yes. So we have the GDPR for sure.
Yeah, but it's similar things. There are also on the US market, like the Cloud Act, and for insurances, for example, you have the National Assurance, what is it called, NAIC, National Association of Insurances Community. I don't know what's the C exactly. You have some regulations. You have for the healthcare, you have the HIPAA and so on. So there is a lot of stuff you have to comply with. And what are those regulations saying? Basically, they are just stating, please encrypt your critical data. So they are not really going maybe in such details like how do you do it. This is what you have to think about. So I don't know, Volker, do you see the same probably as me, or do you have their encountered differences?
Maybe I can add, for the people who are expecting more identity management, I think I can cover it a little more in the next session now, not to disappoint people because of the announcement and the headline, because that's a 2-session thing here. But I would add the interesting thing about encryption is that it's a tool where you can do different things. One thing is maybe unrelated or loosely related to identities, which is you can provide confidentiality. But you also can, for example, encrypt a checksum, like, for example, a checksum with an algorithm out of the group of so-called cryptographic hash algorithms, which are just checksums. And if you encrypt a checksum, why would you do that? Then you can authenticate messages. So you can, instead of covering the message, make it confidential, you add another type of property, which is quite interesting. You add the guarantee that this message is authentic. It wasn't modified, it wasn't manipulated with. And that's also possible to provide using encryption. And that makes key management so interesting, right? Because of course, it is closely related to identity management. So when we talk about that later, I think it will get more clear. But to say the least, to give at least a connection here, when you authenticate a message, then of course you want to know who authenticated that message. In that case, it would be the sender, right? Who authenticated, or for example,
or a man in the
option,
middle, huh?
Yeah, someone. It could be even be an institution in the middle, right? For example, you have a compliance check system, and it additionally authenticates the message, which would be a good idea. So you can do interesting stuff with just using encryption. It's not only providing confidentiality, also confidentiality, of course. And it's not so easy, by the way, if I may add that, if we are talking about GDPR or about the different privacy regulations, which are now popping up in different states. It started with California, I guess, and now other states are going into that direction. So it's not only GDPR here in Europe, we also have it in the United States, this topic. And there it's about privacy. And actually, in the first place, privacy sounds like just confidentiality, right? They sound very similar. And when you think through, you will see that privacy and confidentiality will be two different things in a couple of use cases. And this, by the way, depends on key management. So who has the key, right? Who can attach the key, who can access the key, who can use the key, is actually needed to convert confidentiality into a privacy thing. And that is why key management is so important. And I think it's worth to cover it here in the session.
Yeah. And one point in the key management, maybe the reason why key management also, which is, I put it here on the slide, it's not a technical thing, but if you do improper key management, or let me say, if you have an attack, you know, not improper key management, but if you have an attacker, for example, on purpose, I don't know, deleting something or causing you a pain, right? And you are already an employee of this company doing key management, you're doing everything correctly, then you would need to protect yourself actually, or protect your own employees against unjustified suspicion. And this is something you do also through key management, actually through the key management processes that you have to, of course, follow correctly and don't try to find any workarounds. So that's a very important fact. I don't know how it's outside Germany. Well, actually, in Germany, it's like, you know, when an attack happens, first of all, everybody is a possible attacker. So you need to explain yourself. You need to clean yourself of this suspicion. Yeah, I know in the US it's different. If I'm looking at those law-oriented movies, you know, but it's a different way. So you are clean, and then they have to prove that you are actually the attacker. But in Germany it's different. So that's where the key management comes in place, and the protocols with it and everything around it, organization part.
I think I can add that wherever an attack happens, people get upset usually. That's my experience.
It is,
so
yeah.
Everyone gets upset, and some people, not too many, fortunately, but always some people start to play the blame game and blame other people for doing mistakes. And actually, it was no one's fault. The security system did not work perfectly, or there was even a 0-day and no one could do anything about it. And so if you want to avoid the blame game and keep things being fair, I think that's an important point. That proper key management combined with proper authentication can lead to a situation where it's quite clear that it's not the fault of this person or her or him, but it's actually something which came from outside. So it's a good point here.
Yeah. So, yeah, now, of course, you will ask yourself which key management to choose. And maybe we will repeat the slide at the end if we have a bit of time left, because I don't know if we can answer all the questions. We were thinking about playing a bit like Advocatus Diaboli, the two of us. I wouldn't say I am a fan of automated, of manually or something, but I think we have very different experiences with key management, and my experience rather comes from a manual or half automated, centralized kind of a way to go. But there are, of course, many questions about which one to choose. And you should put these questions all the time, or before you choose a key management course, you have to think about what is suitable for you. And in my opinion, probably the use case that you need the key management for defines more or less, and the security requirement also defines which key management at the end you choose. So you, Volker, you are dealing rather with quite automated with PEP security, and maybe you would like to tell a bit about that, why it is automated, and I would try to explain what I mean with manually, maybe. What do you think?
Yeah, sure. I cannot go ahead here to give people an impression why we made this a topic. First, the company I founded, which is PEP Security, we are into fully automating key management. And let me explain the reasons why we have that idea, why it could be important to, depending on your use case, of course, to your business. First, for the pros and cons. To be fair, to name the big pro of manual key management is you exactly know what you're doing and you're absolutely manually into control. And when it's something important like secrets in cryptography, which includes keys here, I think I can emphasize that if that is your strategy, you're not doing a mistake. But you put a lot of burden on your own shoulders. That is the major thing here.
I think the next slide will show a bit of that burden. but not to make you scary about or to scare you about it, but to make it easier for you to plan it. Because if you know what you're dealing with, everything it gets easier, right?
Yes. The reason for automated key management, why you may opt for automated key management, is a different reason. In automated key management, that means you implement software which implements algorithms for automating key management. So you kind of lose control in the meaning that, of course, the algorithms which you drive decide for generating keys, managing keys, sending keys to somewhere, storing keys, and also revoking keys and deleting keys and so forth. So the full life cycle is getting automated. Why you would want that? Well, because when you have a business and you have use cases where you have so many different keys with different, let's say you have a bunch of short-living keys, you have a lot of long-living keys with different expiry dates, you may get out of control even if you want to have control manually. And having a software which implements then, of course, then you depend on proven security for the management algorithms. And if you have there, you move the trust level to a different piece of software, of course. That is the disadvantage. The advantage is that you automate things which are quite costly, and of course the machine has systematic errors, not the infrequent or frequent mistakes we people all have and we all make.
But you could have bugs in your software, right?
Yeah, sure. Systematic bugs.
So yeah, but I can imagine the automated is indeed something like for SSL handshakes. You know, I mean, we know SSL handshake how it works. Yeah, every server has kind of an authentication certificate. So kind of if you want also client certificate to do that part, right? And you automate all this. I could imagine this would be an interesting use case for automated.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
it is.
What
actually it is.
Yeah.
Actually, TLS is a good example, I would say, because TLS puts a lot of burden on the people driving the systems. Usually, you get the implementation for free, and then the manual tasks are starting, right? That's how TLS behaves in the practice, I would say, in practice. And so it's not so easy. Think about the following. Let's say you're not only using TLS for securing access to some servers by just encrypting traffic to make it confidential and also harder to manipulate. Maybe you want to identify users and you're using client certificates, and everyone who ever tried it knows the pain of this. When you have a bunch of client certificates, let's say you have 20,000 or 30,000, you're trying to manage them.
You don't want to manage 20,000 certificates, of course. You would rather try to automate all this.
Yes, and that's where automation comes in place.
Exactly. And I perfectly agree to you about also the manual stuff, because you have full control about it. For example, finance, healthcare, all those institutions that need to encrypt sensitive data, they may probably want to have the control and also a role model behind that encryption. But there are some use cases like, I don't know, tape encryption or disk encryption. Yeah, this key management systems that are existing on the market for doing that are probably not automated enough and not manual enough. There is something in between. I call them half or semi-automated, because you need in a way that the keys are provided automatically, but who provides those keys? You still want to provide them yourself or to manage them yourself. Okay, so yeah, and the next question is, of course, centralized, decentralized. We have to move a bit faster, I think, or we just stay longer. What it means centralized and decentralized, maybe to explain the terminology. It's not meant centralized like it's on the mainframe. It's meant like you have a one key management system doing key management for all type of use cases that you have. If you have SSL encryption, or you have some authentication, if you have a PKI infrastructure, if you have just some normal archiving or data protection confidentiality needs for keys, that this is all handled by the same system. It keeps the keys on the same place or in the same infrastructure. It backups them centrally. So it organizes everything centrally. In comparison to decentral, which means probably you have for each use case an own key management system. Yeah.
Well, let's say I would phrase it like this: in a mainframe environment, you would have a key would live only in one address space, never in twice, and it would live. Matching keys would live on end users' devices only, and so you don't have like one place where all keys come together because of the risk. This is just risk assessment. I think we have address spaces on a mainframe to separate software from each other, so it's not possible to jump from one program, from one task to the other, and use the memory.
Right.
And that is actually one of the ideas. Same when the keys are never shared by end users' devices, and that is of course then decentralized. It has a security advantage. For us, doing automated key management, it's not harmful at all, but do that manually and you will struggle. Because complexity raises, right?
Well, we'll see. Of course, there is a bit more struggle, but I have to say, in some cases, you need that if you want it or not. So it's a pain in the backside.
It's
Whatever.
problematic.
So the question is, of course, is there a key management on the market, or an external one, a vendor for it, or do you have to build one yourself? Honestly, I wouldn't go myself. I'm coming with programming. 20 years ago, I was programming myself a lot, but I would never program a key management system. Or you just take something, maybe talking now about the mainframe itself, you just take something that comes with a mainframe, or it's already developed in this IBM infrastructure. Yeah. Probably it's the better way to go, but it again depends on your use case. If you have really a use case like disk or tape encryption, and you have very different vendors in your house, not only IBM mainframe, but also different ones, maybe you will search for a key management solution for an independent vendor that covers everything, all your storages, And then there is a question now, meanwhile, since cloud is very, very popular, because in the past we only had on-prem key management. You didn't wanted your key management to be outside your environment. Yeah. Now you have cloud, so you have cloud workloads a lot, and you have to think about, okay, maybe I need some kind of a key management solution from the cloud that is operated in the cloud, or maybe my mainframe it could provide a key management solution for the people being in the cloud, and then relying on the key management on our mainframe, which is on-prem, of course, but for everybody else outside is like a service out of the cloud.
I even would say the mainframe is the cloud, but that's a different topic now.
Yes, it's a different topic. So.
Yeah, sure. No, if you're using IBM eKMF as a key management, or if you're using PEP distributed key management, one thing is clear. You will need, and you will see that quickly now, you will need a key management system which is working in a hybrid cloud environment. This is, I think, one of the biggest things I always hear from customers. Can we have what we have in the cloud on-prem and vice versa? And for many piece of software, not. And so we are talking here about solutions which actually do provide that feature. And especially when the mainframe actually is the cloud, which is basically a good idea, because whatever could have a better virtualization implementation than the mainframe, because that's where it's coming from.
And high availability and performance and so
it's basically a cloud
totally
server.
agree. I mean, we are mainframe fans, right? I mean.
Okay, don't tell that before that people have to detect that themselves. Okay.
Okay. Well, let's move a bit. We were saying in agenda we will talk about challenges and possible showstoppers, because I think every challenge it could be also a showstopper. And there is, of course, a lot to define when talking about key management. And as I said, it could scare you away, but the idea is if you make yourself aware of all this, then it will get easier to plan it. And there is, before you even start, to install or to do some key management, you do a lot of thinking about all the processes that you need to define actually for your infrastructure, for your people, for everything what you need to do. There are a lot of protocols, really documentation that you need to write, a lot of concepts that you need to define, and starting even with role-based access control model. So you definitely will need to set up something like that, and you will have to think about the people doing the key management in the end, and you will need to train those people, make them aware about their jobs, and also find a backup for those people, depending on how critical your key management is. I mean, for just, I can give you no example, because my customers are basically all coming from finance, insurance, automotive, healthcare. So they have a very, very high level of risk and security requirements. And this is where you need a proper, of course, key management, a proper planning. Also, you need to plan or to think about what happens when an attack comes up. What is the escalation part? What am I doing? I'm just plugging out the cable from my computer, my key management, or I'm just shutting the doors, or what do I do? Who am I calling? This all you have to define, of course, in your concept. You have to think about, and not only plan this for the actual or factual circumstances for a real attack, but also for a reasonable suspicion, for a possibility, which means like if you just hear that a key could be compromised, there's the clear value, it's known to somebody, but you don't know for sure, but you have a very reasonable suspicion that this key got out somehow, or that somebody entered in your system. It's already considered as a compromission or compromitted situation. You also have to start all this escalation process and follow the escalation path. And there's, of course, other stuff to think about. Some keys, they are not automated. So you need maybe to exchange some keys with third parties. Maybe you need to split these keys. So you wouldn't just send a clear key out to one person. You maybe want to split it on 2 or 3 persons. It's called split secret concept. And also you would like to separate, of course, the duties, the responsibilities of these people. You don't want that one people have all those key parts, we call them 2 key parts, 3 key parts. You would have every key part assigned to one person specifically. And they are not allowed to exchange those key parts between themselves. Yeah, they are not even allowed to dictate. I even experienced a situation where the first key part holder, the person, needed to enter his key part, his clear key part, and he just said to the second one, being around him, could you just dictate that to me? You know, this is already a clear compromission of that compromitted key in that case. So you have again to escalate and whatever do. And there are keys that maybe you need to exchange in such a case. In case they are compromitted within 24 hours. We have such keys in Germany. I don't know if there are similar, but I can just assume it's similar also outside when we talk about payment cards, debit cards, credit cards. If one of those keys is compromitted from, let's say, a Visa credit card or the Master credit card, I don't know, or something else, whatever, then all the keys or all the cards even related or having to do with that keys need to be exchanged. So it's a huge, of course, risk for this. That's why you have to really think about how to protect those keys, how to protect your infrastructure, your key management infrastructure.
Yes.
And yes.
Maybe we should add one point here. I think these are all good points. I have some history in white hat hacking, and just a comment here at this place. While this is all true and all important, what we have here in this list, please do not forget that when you have a machine and the machine drives software, and this software can access secrets like keys, and this software uses the keys and works with them, do not forget that protecting this piece of software is exactly as important as protecting the keys. Yes. So with key management is also a chance. When you start to model processes, protocols, and roles, when you start to model software which represents roles, because that's what software always does when it's application software, do not forget how you can protect your application software, which is using the keys the same way, with the same effort, like you will protect the secrets it is automatically using. Most people forget that at this point, and that is one of the common attack vectors. You either have people not taking key management serious, and usually they quickly get troubles and even don't know that they have, maybe, or in case of ransomware, they quickly get to know that they do have, right? Which is not funny for the people being victims here. But there's a second thing. It is the software using the keys, and you have to handle both the same way, just as a warning.
Perfectly agree with you. It's like having a house surrounded by kind of a security system, and you have definitely an access door having 7 locks, you know, but you have a fence, and at some point the fence is open.
Yes.
So what does it use? I mean, what usage you have in that super secure door, actually, right? But you haven't looked around in your infrastructure. Kind of, there was a picture some years ago in the public about it. Well, anyway, and there is another thing I would like to mention here about to plan, because this is rather on a management level, you know, because at the end, management is asking, well, if I'm having this risk, what are the damage claims? What do I have any fees to pay, right? Where's to define the liability? And this is defined really on the management level between management and third parties, between management and also employees, of course. And even between management and employees, you need to define the NDAs and the commitment declaration with your key managers, with the people, the persons, the security officers that are doing specifically later the key management, because they need to be aware of what they are doing, of what's the risk and what's the cost at the end, what are the fees, the fines, and the damage claims at the end if something goes wrong.
Okay, Alina, one question to that on that topic,
yes.
Because I know that you're a highly senior consultant in that field. So one question, can you share some experience with cyber insurance in that field already?
Yes, I am myself had to assure our company for cyber attacks, indeed. It's a cool thing that the assurances are selling. I'm sorry for the guys being here from some assurance companies. It's really a cash cow, I think, because you pay a lot of money, indeed, for assuring something, and at the end you're not assured when an attack happens, because the assurances know, of course, which attacks are more likely to happen and which not. But yes.
Okay, to rephrase it a little more positive, I hope. Alina, can you give us tips what we could do to have insurance? What is the minimum we need to supply as key managers that an insurance could accept our concept, or is that something individual which you need to deal out with insurance companies?
That's very individual, and that's depending on the amount also what you want to have insured. I mean, on the damage amount that you want it to be insured. I think that's not that easily answered. There are not many assurances doing that, because, as I said, it's also a risk for them too. to lose money, a lot of money, or to pay a lot of money for
Yeah,
the
sure.
damage. Because just talking about the ransomware attack that we experienced, not we ourselves, but one of our future customer then, meanwhile customer experience, just a ransomware attack where the attackers asked indeed for ransom. It was about 500,000 euros that they were asking as a ransom. But the cost of managing that attack, of putting a new infrastructure in place, of putting encryption in place and everything, it came up to about 10 million. Okay. So you want to assure the 10 million. And for that to assure, I cannot say the 10 million what it costs, but I know what it costed us to assure about 1 million or 2 million. It was quite a lot of money. So I'm expecting at 10 million, maybe the assurance it will cost probably 500,000 in a year, right? Or even more. I don't know. I'm not the insurance company, but yeah, and it won't answer now exactly your question probably, but
I would contradict in this single point. I think you did answer it in the best way ever, because I think you just showed us. I come to the audience here because I'm not a consultant, so I'm listening. Yeah. What you're saying, because it just showed that by the amounts of money you just mentioned, what it costs to ensure that. I think it's now quite clear to me, at least, that how important it is to take this topic serious and to do a serious work on the modeling here, exactly, let's say, tailor-made for the case is what I learned.
Yes.
And take the topic as serious as you can and do it as good as you can and try to insure the rest. Maybe you can spare money with the insurance and it's not about peanuts. No. So that's what I take away, and thank you for that. I think it's a great takeaway.
You're welcome. Well, anyway, they're coming back to key management. I probably know a bit better, what I feel more comfortable with. We talked about processes and boring stuff, but those boring stuff are exactly what the auditors will ask you when they will audit your key management system, for example. All those protocols, have you written them and stuff like that, you know? But in order to make it round, it's not only protocols and organization, but you also, of course, need to do and think about some technical stuff. How do you implement that key management system? And one of the most important thing is also where do you place that key management, the physical security of it, yeah, which is not to underestimate. If it's not, especially in the cloud, where somebody else, based on the SLA, you have to believe him that he's offering enough physical security to that key management system. So you see how I am about cloud a bit. But if you have it on-prem, then of course you will put it in a physical room. You will have it physical access to it, hopefully with biometrical means, either by digital, by your fingerprint or by a retina scan. You will have some access or entry systems. One of my customers, I asked him, how do you call them actually? Because I don't remember the word in English for those. In German, we call them Schleuse. It's just a one-man, very, very small room where you get into with your smart card or your retina scan and then get out on the other side if everything is okay. If it's not okay, you stay inside, you know. And he said it's called man trap. But by the way, women can be trapped in there too. Okay,
man trap, yes.
I love that. So I kept it for myself. We call it man trap. It's just, as I said, a door to the secure room, actually, nothing else, yeah. But anyway, you have to think about it. And also, you were talking, Volker, earlier about the software-based key management, where if you have very, very high risk and security requirements, then you would probably like to rely on a hardware-based key management, which means...
I would say it depends.
It depends on the
in the first we and then let's dive into use cases. We get to strange things. For example, when you use a hardware key store and you put it on your physical key ring as a person, where your key for your car is and the key for your flat is, and you use that, for example, for multi-factor authentication, I would say I don't know any better option to handle a key like this, and I would love to have it in hardware. Because why not? There's just no good reason not to have that, right? And on the other side, when you think about the following situation, you have a machine. The machine executes software, and that software uses keys fully automatically. Like, let's say a server using TLS, and the server needs actually the key, which is the secret key part in this case. And what is the difference then to have the key on that server, which you need to protect anyway, or to have a hardware key store attached to the same server? I would say, ironically, if you think through, by attaching an HSM, you only get additional attack vectors. This sounds surprising, I know.
Yeah, but
in the first place, and usually that's not how you handle an HSM. But just to point to the very fact, it's depending on use case if software-based key management is more helpful than hardware-based key management, or vice versa. Completely use case
I agree with the use case. I think the use case, it has a risk management or a risk kind of a assessment. And if at the end the management decides this is too risky for me, then I rather take a hardware-based or hardware security module for that, or crypto card, or whatever you want to call it. There are different names for this: crypto engine, crypto device. So I would suggest, as higher the risk gets, that you better take a hardware-based encryption and also key management system, of course. And you better
At last, we found something where we disagree. I love that.
Yeah, we agree to disagree. Perfect.
Okay. No, partly true, of course, obviously true what you're saying, but I'm pointing, I'm just putting my finger into where it hurts, okay?
Right.
For example, you want to drive a ratchet algorithm, and you drive a ratchet algorithm because you want to have perfect forward secrecy. You want to have the property that when somewhat later people are getting to the key, they will not have all access, right, to everything which was protected by the key. And think about the other direction on the timeline. You may want to have short-living keys which are exchanged on a frequent basis, let's say 2 times a minute. And that provides a lot of extra security in some use cases, not in all, in some use cases. And if you want to have that, it will be most likely software-based, because tell me the hardware-based key management solution which can do this.
Not necessarily, but I think we need to move on, Volker.
Yeah, I heard that.
I'm sorry about that. We have a lot of slides left, and we don't want to stay
unfortunately.
here till, I think, midnight. So there is... I think everybody can see there is a lot of discussions. It's not decided within one day, and this discussion is really needed. Yeah, you have to rather take more people and discuss with them, because more people think about all these components and have more eyes, we say it. Yeah. So another thing probably that you have to plan is also the network security of your key management system, and the system hardening. All these you need to do, or how do you exchange keys with third parties? I mean, if your key management system is on-prem and you need to export some keys, or you need to import some keys, maybe you need to define also here some technical, but also processes to put those keys, I don't know, on paper, on smart card, on USB stick, I don't know, on a CD, on a DVD. I don't know. You have to think about it. How do you want to do this, and what technical possibilities you have, right? And then of course it's important that you have kind of a backup concept on your key management system too. If I don't know, the machine is dead, whysoever, the hard disk dies, hit it with your leg. That happens to me sometimes when I'm sitting down and the key management machine is under the table. I'm not thinking about it, bong, you know. So I know it's not funny, but it did happen. So anyway, you have to have a backup machine where you're up and running very fast if really you need it. Yeah, of course, a manual, half manual machine, you won't need it right away maybe, but if really something happens, then you have to be there at the machine up and running.
Yeah, sure. When we're heavily using encryption, then
Yes.
we heavily depend on
Yes.
keys.
Yes, exactly.
Obviously, yes.
And of course, depending on whatever you else have of decision, automatic or not, decentral or not, or whatever, cloud, especially cloud, you will have definitely some other things and security issues you will need to think about. Yeah, and when you don't do key management, or when an attack happens, I just thought I would put here some, I call them now funny, oh my God, situations. They were not funny.
Shall we do, Lena, shall we do the following? Because we are running out of time.
We are running out of time. Yeah.
Can we just ask, dear audience, can you just provide your funny, oh my God, situations?
Oh, yes.
Which we can discuss here. This is just an example of our experience, what happened to us or to customers and so forth. And if you have something to bring into this show, at least I would love to learn from it.
That would be cool. Maybe until people are writing their experiences, I would take one or two of these cases, because they're so funny. I mean, this happens in the last 20 years, of course, and some of them would never happen again today, right? But when you get there, for example, to a key management system, and then you see that the keys are written down on paper, on Post-it, and put it, close to the system or under the keyboard, This was also funny, shaking the keyboard, looking under it, and there was the key. It was like, you're not serious now, right? Oh, yes, I am. Nobody knows it's under the keyboard. It was so funny. Or the other way, where a key management system, I was saying earlier, it should be in a secure room, right? And protected also physically. And then you talk to the customer on the phone, and you are asking him to do some stuff, thinking the customer is directly at the key management system itself. And at some point, he says something very strange. And then I was asking, well, are you at the machine, in front of the machine? Oh, no, I have a remote desktop connection to the machine. And I just said, well, you're not allowed to do that, even if it's SSL encrypted, but you're not allowed to do that from a key management requirements perspective in a very, very highly risk environment, okay? Not in a lower risk situation. But there were many more of those, and I don't know if there's any comment on this.
Not yet, but if I can add something to take it to again bring it back to the serious space. There are actually serious issues in key management and checking if I'm using the right key together with my colleague on the phone and stuff like that, which some people do by just comparing fingerprints. It's also what is being shown in your web browser when you open that window that nearly no one ever opens, but which would be a good idea to open, which is the window which shows you the certificate being used and the fingerprint of that key. And I know that in some places, people started just to compare the first and the last group of the ID of keys. PGP people are doing that. It's also done for
the fingerprint.
In the X509. Just to make a comment on that from an attacker's perspective, if I know that you're only comparing 32 bits, which is 16 bits plus 16 bits, what you compare, and it's always those, it's so easy to find a key which is colliding in these bits. Right. So if you make that a catcher, then you lose to any man-in-the-middle attacker because it's so easy to find a key which actually has the same bits there and other bits somewhere else. And then you can just impose being a person which you not are. And that is one of the results of underestimating how important it is to be exact in managing secrets.
That's true. Also, talking about a possible, it did not happen to me. I heard about it, but not in my career. Another attack or happened in a key management system with the cleaning company, because it was easy to pay the cleaning company somebody who had access to the key management room and place there a keylogger behind the machine, the key management machine, just keylogger logged everything, like passwords, whatever was typed on the keyboard or on the key management machine, yeah. And it was easier to pay off such a person than to pay off the key manager, because that's a different probably class of wages, yeah. But it's also something you have to think about. So that's why some of the companies doing seriously key management, right? They are not even allowing cleaning companies inside the room. They are cleaning themselves. Yeah, funny.
I want to say thank you to Edson from the audience. I know. Thank you, Edson, just for claiming this and making this important statement.
Okay.
I already was learning that another person in the audience actually pointed to Microsoft Excel, which is a common tool to automate key management. Yes, here it is. So I'm not sure if that is a solution which I would put into the automation bucket, but okay.
Now we do have, of course, very less minutes left, and I hope that Felix and Christian are giving us maybe a few minutes more. We won't go through all the slides. We will provide them, of course. Not all the slides are important, yeah, but they were just meant to, if we have enough time, you never know as a key manager if you have enough time, so you plan considerably. But I think we should mention here some of the points that if you have all this planning, you have all the technical stuff and processes, when you implement a key management system, you, of course, still have to implement the role concept. You have to still install the system and the service. You have to think about disaster recovery, emergency concept, implementing it in the system, and start doing the keys planning, like designing the keys. Which key types do you use? Symmetric, asymmetric? How long are they? Where do you store them? On which system do you distribute the keys? Meaning, is it one mainframe with many LPAs? Do you need to group them, or are many mainframes with a lot of LPAs to group them? And all this, like key state and key life cycle, it's important at implementation time, importing, exporting, stuff like that. And this is what I think we can leave the slide like it is for everybody who is interested more to know about some things that you have to implement at generation time, or at distribution time, like access control and so on. It's just as a bit more informative slide. We don't need to go through it. And another one is, for example, a sample from the key state that is provided from NIST, that's a National Institute for Standards, which thought about something, and theoretically is cool, because you actually, before you have the key, you plan it, then you generate it, and you activate it, meaning it means you provide it in the system where you need it for encryption or whatever. And then when you don't need the key anymore in his key life cycle, you need at some point to delete the key, to destroy it. And this is how you do it, with providing it from one state of called activated to a deactivate, and then to a destroy state. Now, this is, of course, very, very deep now. But what I'm trying to tell you here, that somehow theory not always is working. You see here, the way to go, it's only in one direction. You can never come back from a deactivated key to an activated key if we stay strictly compliant to NIST. Now, I can tell you in the praxis, this doesn't work. In the praxis, sometimes, that's why I put this slide, sometimes it does happen that you deactivate a key because you think, I don't need it anymore in this LPA, but then you forgot that in another LPA, you're still using it,
I think it's funny, Alina, that you see the same pain point that I do. It's deactivation. The pain point of deactivation usually means if you handle things by deactivating keys, do not forget to revoke keys. Really revoke keys, create revocation certificates when you generate them. So you're not only generating a key pair, also generate a revocation and manage it. And when you need to deactivate the key, first apply the revocation, so your local key management will not use it anymore, but also distribute the revocation. And I think that is one of the most important points that deactivate error here, where usually the pain points live, because it's not so easy to guarantee that the revocation was distributed to all places where it needs to be. Everyone who ever used the certificates based on a key should get a revocation. And there is, again, where automating key management has advantages when we have protocols to auto distribute revocations. And that partly so, because I'm completely with you, Alina, again, you're absolutely right. The problem is this: does this work in practice? Can I just deactivate the key and no one uses it? And what do I do in case someone still uses it and my system stops working?
Well,
and so you have to reactivate it, right?
If it's upon NIST, you would not do anything. It's bad luck.
Well, but that's a theory we cannot not follow. We are driving businesses, so
exactly.
The systems have to run, right?
All key management systems adapted and allow you to go back in a way, not all those steps back, but some steps allow you to go back under a privileged access mode. So it means you need maybe 2 people to allow this going back, to access it, and then this is how you do. So you try to be more practical.
This is, if you can go back one slide, please, still. So for our last sentence, this is what you can do with this deactivation arrow, is what you can have in automated key management. For the first time you can implement it in practice. We at PEP call this key reset, because you create the new key, distribute the new key, create the revocation, or you already have it because it's created by generation, and you distribute it. And when after that, like a transaction, when you have a guarantee that everyone has it, you switch to the new key. And that is something which is quite hard to implement in practice without automation, just to put that finger again on the place where it hurts. But we see it the same, I guess. It's not so easy. That's a big one.
Thank you. So we go to the next slide, maybe. I know I'm pushing it a bit, but I
sure. We are over
really
time.
Like to show the participants, if there is still any there, and it's not
I hope that the people are still interested here. Okay.
So yes, there are of course some tools that IBM already provides, right, with the systems, and they are really, really good. And I'm saying it with a very good confidence. Yes. One of them is called a trusted key entry, and basically it's nothing else than a machine, an x86, if you want it like that, with also a crypto card, a crypto engine in it, or an HSM card. And this is doing a very, very restricted key management, but is the only way and secure way to provide some called master keys to the mainframe that are placed in a crypto card on the mainframe. The crypto cards on the mainframe are called Crypto Express, those HSM devices. And if you want to set up your mainframe very securely and using those cards, then you would need this trusted key entry as an optional external feature. It's, as I said, it's like a computer, and it allows you also grouping of those keys. It allows you to access it based on a role model. You have a very strong authentication of your people acting on that machine, of the security officers, because you can use smart cards on it with pins. You have a dual control. At some activities, you will need a second person to approve that specific command. Of course, a bit of audit logging. And what's interesting, you have also a workflow for migrating and for backupping all those key materials, the master keys on the mainframe, which is very important, because if one of those Crypto Express cards on the mainframe are dead, whatsoever, if you don't have a backup of it or a process of having those keys and moving them in a new card, then you're lost. Yeah, and all your data is lost. And by the way, in tape encryption or disk encryption, it's a common way, meanwhile, to delete data or make it unusable by deleting the key. This is just nothing to do with key management, just giving an idea what we are sometimes using also encryption. Okay, so it's just an idea what you could take. But with this trusted key entry, unfortunately, I mean, you can also handle some keys, some symmetrical and some asymmetrical keys, but it's just a bunch of them. As soon as you need lots of them, I mean, hundreds or maybe thousands, then you would like to have some more complexity also in your key management system, and more not automatization, but more performance and more usability, more commodity also for the users. And this is where in the past it was called DKMS, distributed key management systems. Meanwhile, the application itself, the key management application, it's called like that, and the whole construction, it's called actually EKMF, means Enterprise Key Management Foundation. And this is another machine, actually, additionally to the TKE, also containing a hardware security module in it, a crypto engine, a hardware one. And this is the way you do really a centralized management. You can manage all types of keys on this machine. You can provide them centrally for the mainframe. You place them in some key stores on the mainframe, which are also encrypted with the master keys on the Crypto Express card. So I could continue that for 2 hours. I'm not doing that. I have to stop. But what I'm trying to say, that also this machine can be used to distribute hundreds, thousands of keys to different devices, to different mainframes, different LPADs, to group them. Also role-based, also strong authentication. You can export and import keys using smart cards on paper. You can print them out. You have dual control. You have even a group log on, meaning I need to log on together with my counterpart key officer in order to access the system. So I need 2 people to be there in order to access the system. So all this stuff, for example, you don't have it like this, particularly in the TKE. Have it in the DKMS or EKMF. And it's a very modular construction. You just take what you need, all those modules. You have a module for just normal symmetrical keys, whatever, AES, whatever you need. You have PK11, you have certificates management, you have SSL certificates key management. You have even a possibility to do certificate authority functionality with this EKMF. And all this, as I said, it's up to thousands of keys. I have customers that are managing 10, 20,000 of such keys, and without a performance issue. And this is what I wanted here, just to give you. Of course, you will need to read more about it, because this is it's not explained in 5 minutes. But it has also, by the way, a web-based version. And with this web-based version, you could install your backend key management on a mainframe. And with a web-based version, you could provide outside actually cloud key management services, maybe to your own customers, right? So I think we lost Volker, but now he's back.
Yeah, sorry, there was some network hiccup. I lost connection to this server here, but fortunately it works again. That is with live sessions.
I think you just wanted to skip the pain slides for you, because you have, of course, a different approach for key management. No, just kidding.
No, totally not.
Oh. So back to us. I think we took enough time for the participants. As maybe a closing word, whatever you choose, of course, you have a very high responsibility. You have to choose it wisely. Take your time. Of course, it takes time. It takes some money, surely. It takes some sweat also, yes, and some nerves. But it is worth it at the end. You have definitely something at stake to protect. And you need to make aware everybody in this kind of a infrastructure, in an organization, aware of this. So train the people, make them aware, keep the key material at all times safe. I'm talking for high risk, yes. So keep this material safe, as much as possible humanly. So what I want to say about this, if I'm a key manager, and of course I'm aware of the risk and I'm protecting, and nobody gets a password out of me or gets into the room or whatever, yeah. But if somebody comes with a gun and says, Alina, your life or the key, then I'm saying, hell, take the key. I mean, I don't want to die. So it's a bit exaggerated, I know, but this is what I'm meaning with humanly possible. Nobody will cut your head off because of that. But whatever you do, you will have to explain yourself why you have done it. So you have to have good reasons, and that's where the protocols come in place. That you followed all those protocols and processes. And if still something happens, believe me, most of the cases you don't get it in the press. I experience everything. Most of the companies just put it under the carpet. You know this expression in English? We have it in German. So you won't get anything out normally. But if something happens, just act immediately. Take your emergency protocol, escalation path, follow that one, and of course keep cool. Just remain cool, not hyperventilate. You know,
easily said, dear Alina, and you are cool. I know that in such situations, but not everyone can do that. But maybe we should add how important it is to develop a security culture in your enterprise, which is allow that it may fail. Really, I repeat that because it's so important.
Not in
do allow that it may fail. Allow, because then reset the key, exchange it, deactivate it. Allow in your processes that things may fail because they will fail. And if you have processes where you can, let's say, repair that.
Yeah, well, I agree with you.
Where you have a chance. Yes, but I think you said, Alina, you said people are trying to put it under carpet, and that is basically what I experience as well. And I think the reason why people do that is because they fear that it's not allowed to do a mistake. And it's hard with secrets in cryptography to do mistakes because the damage may be so high, right? So it's quite hard to find into processes and into a culture where at least you have emergency actions. And I think, Alina, you already mentioned that it's a necessity to have emergency actions defined, right?
Yes.
It's absolutely necessary. And in this case, execute calmly. And I think execute calmly, which you said too, Alina, I think it's only possible in a culture where you do allow that it may fail. And
I don't call it may fail. I agree really to disagree now, because
of course.
you should not fail. But what you can do is you train your people and you exercise cases. So you pretend you have an attack, so that you go through all this escalation path and all these stories, and you are prepared. And I suggest the customers to exercise every year at least once, but better twice a year, such a disaster case, we call it. And then you are prepared and you won't fail. Yeah, I mean,
yeah, sure. If you define success like this, you can successfully execute a disaster recovery, and you can successfully execute correction of exposing compromising secrets. Then I fully agree. I think we found each other again. I just wanted to point to that well-known experiment where you put some bread and jam onto a slice of, you put some butter and jam on a slice of bread, and you throw it into the air and just measure where it will land, on which side, right? And I think you all know that. And there's also the experiment where you put that on the back of a cat, because a cat always lands on its feet. But things which can go wrong will go wrong. Have a plan for this, have a process for this, and execute the process in case it goes wrong. And have a plan how you get aware of things are going wrong. You know, you must detect that, and then you must execute that process, which is for this case, and you execute it as professional as all other processes. And if you find into a culture like that, I'm pretty sure we could add a lot of security to our environment and to our world we're living in, and to all businesses. And I would like that.
Yeah. Well, I think we are at the last, very last slide, which was important for me. You have some links here, because I don't know if I understood correctly the question of Maurizio Novello. There are software name of Key Manager to Learn. Probably you're searching for kind of a book for key managers. Not really. I can suggest you to take one red book, for example, for the EKMF, if you want to read more also about the concepts, and there's also a lot of general concept about how a key management should go and should be taken seriously, and of course how you implement an EKMF. It's an older red book, maybe there is a newer one, but I'm not sure if this is answering your question, Maurizio. If not, just contact me later. I have my contact data here at the end. And Volker, I wasn't sure if I should provide yours, so please apologize.
No problem. I think the IBM can edit anyway. No problem.
Yes.
I know it's your standard slides. And by the way, Alina, thank you for taking the main work for preparing that session. You saved me. And I will not hit you for that. You just saved me.
I was in the flow, you know. So
yeah, sure. Okay. No, that was amazing piece of work. Thank you.
Well, I really hope people are still watching, and really we did not kill them or stroke them or something, because you made it. That's my gesture at the end. And if anybody has, of course, questions, we will providing the slides, of course. And if anybody has questions, feel free to contact us. I'm also in social media, just in LinkedIn and Xing, but yeah.
Thank you very much, Alina, and thank you, Volker, as well. And I can reassure you, they're all still very much alive. Yeah, and I have to say, wow, I'm really impressed. I think this session had it all. We've had lively discussions. We've had lots of examples, a lot of love. We've also had a silent Volker leaving, but for everyone worried, don't worry, we'll have another session.
Not voluntarily, not voluntarily.
Not voluntarily, of course, and we'll have another session with him next week. I'm just looking through the questions that were posed, and there was one, I think, that has been already answered about resources for learning. I mean, Alina, I think you have provided the slides already. There are a lot of links, so everyone make sure to go through them. I'm just looking at, I think we've got another question about cybersecurity insurance. Let's see whether you're ready to take this one. I don't know, maybe Volker or Alina. So basically, what about cybersecurity insurance? When is it worth it? Is it true that military hacker attacks are not covered by insurance? So maybe a bit out of scope for what we've discussed, but please feel free to share your thoughts on this.
Do you want to take that, Alina, or shall I?
I'm not sure if I want to take that. Okay. I mean, I took the question earlier about the cybersecurity, okay? It is worth it if you are a very public company. If you are, we call it in Germany, kritis. If you are, for example, an energy company providing services, very critical services outside. If you are a gas providing company, and then, of course, you need to insure yourself against such attacks. But what does this insurance doing? It's actually paying for your damages at the end. It's not helping you against the attacks or anything. Yeah. So if it's worth it, it's depending on your company. But a military hacker, I don't think it's covered.
Can I comment on that?
Please comment it. If you
okay,
know.
Out of experience, military guys are problematic for usually military guys of the other side. They are way less problematic for if you're just driving a business, usually, whatever you read in the media. But there are some very serious cases which you may face taking damage from different type of people. One big thing actually is still automated attacks. So there's a lot of worms in the internet. And if you don't know that your machine if it's connected to the internet, gets most likely being attacked like twice a minute or up to once each 2 minutes. If you don't see it, if you don't understand that, then you just don't know it. It's the case. So it's not a theory. Yes, you're completely, totally, and constantly under attack when you connect the machine to the internet. If you don't know it, that's all. You don't know it, but it's the case. And that is part of defending against automated attack, is the very first thing you need to think about. And I wouldn't like to depend on an insurance for that, because that will kill you, right? Really, or kill your business or risk your business, which is all difficult to insure. And the second thing is, it's about targeting. And targeting is two different things. You may get targeted because you just look like an easy victim for ransomware. You know, you may get targeted even if you're not too interesting, just because you look like an easy victim. Or you get targeted because you're playing a dangerous game, because in your business, people are playing dangerous games. You don't, you're completely innocent, but you may get targeted if your business is worth it and it's about a lot of money. And that's what business usually is about. So in case you have this, I would always consider having a cyber insurance being part of your plan, because, you know, the plan, a security plan in such an environment usually looks like, we do this to prevent automated attacks from being successful. We do this to handle targeting. This is what we cannot cover because it would cost way too much, or it would even stop our processes. So we cannot do it. So we want to get to know that someone is abusing these attack vectors. So that is our last defense. And then we have a rest of risk, which we just cannot cover by technical means or by organizational means. And this is what we insure, because why not? You know, it's a sensible thing to do in a business. So I would also underline that cyber insurances should be a part of a security concept today. They just can't cover what you cannot cover the other way. So they're really helpful, I would say.
Thank you, Volker. I think, and also to you, Alina, of course, this has really covered the questions. And before we close this off, and I also have another question for you guys, of course, from our side. I mean, as you are probably aware, and of course, all of our viewers probably are aware as well, IBM has just released its newest mainframe system, the IBM-Z 16. And Volker and Alina, you both mentioned how important it is to also connect the key management solution to the world of hybrid cloud, right? And you said that it was essential to have it for you. And also, if you look now at the newest system we've released and all the security mechanisms, and also everything with regards to quantum safe and everything it's doing around cryptography, where do you kind of see the relation of this, and where do you see this going as well?
Well, the Z, or the system Z, and generally IBM is always one of the first one to provide on the market solutions for new algorithms, for new whatever technically speaking is possible. And this is what I think it takes this IBM Z16. It's so interesting because this is the first industry quantum safe system that provides quantum safe technology across multiple layers of firmware. You have also the Crypto Express card, the Crypto Express 8 called card. It's just a version, the next version, that also delivers you quantum safe APIs, so you can start already this cryptography along with classical cryptography, like the known AES and whatever RSA and ECC cryptography is existing there. So I think this is one of the major things that the Z16 achieved from a point of encryption, right? Because key management is always with encryption together, and the key management tools that we use for that, they are also enhanced permanently to provide also support for this cryptography type. I won't say now, because this is something very general. It's always better. It's always more performant. It's always faster in calculating all those keys and encrypting and everything. I don't know now how fast it is, 2 times, 3 times. I don't know, but I could check, but you could check too. So, but I think what's important is this quantum safe algorithm and orientation that the Z16 has. This is cool. And why is cool? Because IBM is.
It is, yes. Yes,
with
it is.
127 qubits normally, not in this machine, but they have already 127 qubits quantum computer, which is amazing, right? So I'm really excited about it.
Yeah, I would underline that and add a finger point to the IBM-Z Security and Compliance Center, because I find it a great idea to actually provide a dashboard and a tool where you can, let's say, double check and be always informed and actually informed about the status of your security implementation. I think that is way more important than not making mistakes, even that you're getting always aware what is the case, in what status are you, and where is everything fulfilled, where you may have a problem. And I think that's a quite helpful tool.
Thank you, Volker and Alina. I think it has been settled now. The future will be interesting. And before we close this off, maybe let's just have another look at what the future will bring for this series. So in the next session, we will have another session with Detak and Kostin, and we will focus back on the mainframe passwords and what can be done there and how this can actually be improved also for mainframes. And of course, after this session, we will have Volker back here talking about, I think, I'm not wrong if I say this, Volker, one of your favorite topics, Zero Trust architecture.
Yeah, sure.
We all look forward to this. So thank you very much for being here with me today, Volker and Alina. And thank you also, of course, to everyone still watching and who has watched. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us. Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you. Have a nice day.
You're very welcome. Have a nice day. Bye.